The shuttle shuddered violently as it pierced the dense clouds above vThey're 9. Lightning danced across the crimson sky, striking the jagged mountains in the distance. Inside the cockpit, Captain Elias Thorne's knuckles whitened around the controls. "Hold her steady," he barked, his voice calm but sharp. "We're almost down." A deafening crack echoed through the cabin, and the shuttle skidded across the rocky surface, throwing sparks from the landing struts. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and the mercenary team huddled in their seats, gripping weapons that suddenly felt useless. One of them, a tall veteran named Cale Voss, muttered, "I've flown through storms before but nothing like this." His voice cracked, betraying fear he tried to hide. Elias's eyes darted to the sensors. Something moved beyond the shuttle's shields. Shadows, shifting and fluid, darted over the rocks. He grabbed a flare from the console, yanking it free. The flare ignited with a hiss, casting a bright red glow across the crater. The shadows froze. "Everyone out now?" Elias ordered, stepping onto the wet, jagged ground. His boots sank slightly into the red soil, leaving crisp prints behind. The mercenaries hesitated, fear rooting them in place. One of them whispered, "I don't think we should." Elias's glare cut through the hesitation. "Now, or we don't leave at all." He moved forward, flare held high, illuminating the strange tracks etched into the earth. They were massive, irregular, and unlike any animal or alien species catalogued in known databases. The mercenaries' faces went pale. "What made these?" Cale asked, voice trembling. "I'm about to find out," Elias replied. He crouched, examining the tracks. They pulsed faintly with a bioluminescent glow, as if alive. The air crackled with electricity, and a low hum resonated through the crater. It wasn't the storm. Something else was there. Suddenly, a ripple of movement across the rocks caught Elias's eye. A creature emerged, almost transparent, its multi-limbed form shifting like liquid glass. Its eyes, or what passed for eyes, glowed with intelligence. It paused, tilting its head as if observing them. The mercenaries froze, mouths open, fingers tightening on weapons they now understood were useless. "Do not fire," Elias said, holding a hand up. His voice was steady, commanding. "We don't know what it wants." He took a slow step forward. "I need a closer look." The creature moved closer too, silent except for a faint ripple in the air around it. Then, impossibly, it emitted a sound, a voice that mimicked human tones. "Why are you here?" The words sliced through the storm. The mercenaries jumped back. One dropped a rifle and it skidded across the rocks. Cale's jaw tightened. "It's speaking." Elias didn't flinch. He knelt slightly, keeping his flare high. "We come in peace," he said. "We are explorers, not hunters. We mean no harm." The creature paused, its limbs folding and unfolding like liquid origami. Then it shifted forward, faster than any human eye could track. The ground vibrated beneath their boots. Elias felt the energy pulse through him, a pressure that bent reality itself. The crater walls seemed to ripple, expanding outward like a living thing. The mercenaries whispered frantic warnings. "We need to leave," one yelled. Another tried to call the shuttle, but the storm's interference kept the comms dead. Their exosuits hummed, warning of gravitational anomalies forming in the crater. Panic threatened to overwhelm them. Elias scanned the surroundings. The creature wasn't attacking, yet. It was testing them, gauging their reactions. Every instinct screamed to flee, but he suppressed it. He raised the flare higher. Its red light reflected off the translucent skin of the creature, revealing subtle markings, symbols, patterns, maybe a language. "Step back if you must," Elias told the mercenaries, "but we stand together." He adjusted his footing, calculating distances, anticipating the creature's next move. Even in fear, his mind worked like a machine, translating the danger into strategy. He had learned humans survive because they adapt faster than anything else. The creature paused a few meters away, then made a sudden movement. The ground beneath it cracked and shimmered. A narrow fissure opened, glowing with energy, and the creature vanished into it as if swallowed by the earth itself. The shockwave made everyone stumble. Dust, rocks, and sparks flew in every direction. Silence followed. The mercenaries were frozen, staring at the fissure. Elias's chest heaved. He lowered the flare, breathing hard but controlled. The tracks led toward the fissure. Whoever, or whatever, had left them was still here, and it was far from finished. Elias turned to the team, eyes burning with determination. "This isn't just a storm. This planet is alive in ways we don't understand. And I intend to find out." From deep inside the fissure, a low, resonant hum grew louder. Something moved within, a shadow against the glowing walls. Then, without warning, a shape emerged, larger, more intricate, and terrifyingly intelligent than the first. Its presence made even the veteran mercenaries take a step back. Elias clenched his fists, heart racing, and whispered to himself, "So this is what we came for." The second creature froze, regarding the humans like a judge sizing up a challenger. The storm raged around them, lightning striking closer, and the ground still pulsed with unseen energy. The first spark of curiosity, courage, and danger had collided. And somewhere deep in the crater, a new threat, and perhaps a new ally, waited. Elias stepped forward, flare in hand, ready to face it. The crater's glow bathed the human team in unnatural red light. Elias Thorne's heart pounded, but his mind raced faster. He had seen impossible things before, but nothing like this. The mercenaries around him muttered under their breaths, fear etched into every line of their faces. They had trained for war, for ambushes, for alien conflicts. But this was something else entirely. Elias stepped closer to the fissure, the source of the pulsing energy. Each footfall pressed down on unstable ground. The red soil shifted, almost breathing beneath his boots. "Keep your eyes open," he commanded. "We don't know what this is capable of, but it's testing us." Kale Voss, the tall mercenary, swallowed hard. "Testing us? Captain, it could crush us in seconds. We can't fight this." Elias didn't answer immediately. He knelt and examined the glowing crack. Tiny, crystalline fragments littered the edges, each humming with energy. "This isn't just a creature," Elias said finally. "It's guarding something, maybe knowledge, maybe a weapon. Either way, it's alive, aware, and it respects intelligence. That's why it hasn't attacked yet." A sudden vibration ran through the ground. The second creature's shadow flickered along the fissure walls. The mercenaries jumped, rifles raised instinctively, but Elias stayed calm. "Weapons down," he said firmly. "Brute force won't solve this. Only thinking will." One of the newer mercenaries, a short, wiry woman named Tessa Lynn, whispered, "We should leave. Right now. This is insane." Her voice trembled. Elias stood, meeting her gaze. "We came to explore, Tessa. To understand. That's what humans do. They adapt, they survive, and they solve impossible problems. Panic won't help us. Thinking will." He took a deep breath and stepped into the fissure, the hum growing louder with every move. The team hesitated. The storm outside had shifted. Lightning now struck with irregular patterns and gravity seemed unstable. The fissure narrowed, walls shimmering with alien energy, almost as if it had a consciousness of its own. Suddenly, the crystalline fragments floated off the ground, forming a barrier between the humans and the deeper passage. Kale cursed, reaching for his rifle, but Elias grabbed his arm. "No," he said sharply. "Let it guide us. Move forward slowly. Observe." The team exchanged wary glances but followed. Elias took the lead, using the flare to illuminate the path. The barrier pulsed as he approached, then split apart silently, allowing him through. He turned to the others. "See? It responds to our behavior. Be careful, be smart, and it lets you advance." As they walked, strange symbols appeared on the walls, lines that glowed like circuits. Elias touched one and a holographic map projected into the air. Star systems, coordinates, and strange markings filled the space before them. The humans gasped. This wasn't a natural formation. It was technology, advanced beyond anything the mercenaries had ever encountered. Kale's voice broke the awe. "What the hell is all this?" Elias examined the map, tracing paths with his fingers. This planet was once a hub. Someone, or something, used it strategically. That creature, the fissure, even these symbols, they're all part of a defense system. And it's testing anyone who comes here. The mercenaries whispered among themselves, fear turning to grudging admiration. They had trained to kill, to dominate, but here they were spectators to something beyond their skill. Only humans, Elias realized, had the combination of instinct, empathy, and quick thinking that might survive this. A sudden noise shattered the moment. A metallic screech echoed through the fissure and the walls shuddered. Dust and small rocks rained down. The team froze. The second creature appeared, its massive frame now fully visible, hovering above them. Its skin flickered between solid and transparent, and its eyes glowed with a strange intensity. Elias stepped forward, flare held high, heart pounding. "It wants to see how we react under pressure," he murmured. He scanned the walls for anything that might help. There, a narrow ledge lined with crystalline nodes. He gestured to Tessa. "Use those nodes to stabilize the ground and guide the others. Quickly." The team obeyed, moving in sync under his direction. The creatures studied them, every movement precise. The mercenaries struggled, some slipping, some faltering, but Elias corrected them with short commands, guiding their instincts. Then the fissure shuddered again. One node cracked, sending a wave of energy toward Kale. Without hesitation, Elias shoved him aside, taking the full brunt of the shock. Pain seared through his chest, but he gritted his teeth and stood. The others stared, stunned. Elias's flare burned bright in his hand, his face a mask of determination. "You see," he said, voice low but commanding. "We adapt. We survive. That's what makes us human. That's why it's not attacking us. That's why we can succeed here where trained killers fail." The team advanced deeper, the map guiding them toward the center of the ruins. Every pulse of energy, every shimmer of light, every flicker of movement tested their courage. But with Elias leading, the humans began to move in unison, turning fear into strategy. And then, without warning, a second fissure opened to their left. From it, dozens of smaller, faster creatures emerged, their translucent forms darting like lightning. The mercenaries screamed, aiming weapons wildly. Elias's eyes narrowed. "No," he shouted. "Listen to me. Focus. Think or we die." The creatures swirled around them, fast, relentless, but they didn't attack directly. They moved as if gauging, calculating responses. The humans mirrored Elias's calm decisiveness, dodging, retreating, and advancing in careful, intelligent movements. A small payoff moment arrived. Tessa managed to stabilize a floating node, and one of the smaller creatures froze midair, then retreated back into the fissure. Kale stared, disbelief and respect in his eyes. Elias kept moving, heart racing, sweat streaking his face. "We're learning. We survive because we think. Remember that." Then a deep, resonant sound echoed from the center of the crater, vibrating through the floor. The larger creature reappeared at the far end, eyes glowing brighter than ever. The ground quaked violently, and a crack split the floor between them and the exit. Elias froze, calculating. The team looked to him, eyes wide. They had survived the first tests, but this was different. He gritted his teeth, flare burning red in hand. "Stay close. Nothing we've faced yet is the real threat. That's still ahead." From the fissure's depths, a shadow moved, far larger than anything they had seen, and the hum of alien energy surged to a deafening pitch. The humans had made it through the first challenge. But now the real test was coming. The shadow loomed over them, stretching across the crystalline fissure like a living mountain. Elias Thorne felt the hairs on his arms rise. His team pressed close, breathing shallow, eyes wide, fingers tightening on weapons that suddenly felt meaningless. The massive creature wasn't moving toward them. It was waiting, calculating, judging. Elias studied the patterns of its limbs, shifting in impossible ways, almost fluid. He realized something crucial: the creature didn't attack randomly. Its movements mirrored their behavior. Every hesitation, every panic response made it stronger. Every clever, coordinated action allowed them to survive. "Stay calm," he whispered to the team. "We think. It observes. It responds." Kale Voss glanced at him, jaw tight. "We've been thinking. Look around, Captain. They're massive. Nothing we know can." Elias cut him off, his voice firm. "Exactly. Nothing you've seen. But humans survive when nothing else can. Use your brains. Not your guns." A sudden tremor ran through the fissure. Rocks slid down, and the smaller, translucent creatures darted from the walls, circling, testing, but not striking. Elias's heart pounded. He realized the smaller creatures were scouts, feeding information back to the giant shadow above. They were not predators, they were data collectors. He crouched, eyes scanning the glowing nodes along the fissure walls. Each node pulsed rhythmically, and Elias noticed a subtle pattern. When he touched one with his hand, the closest creature would freeze midair for a heartbeat. Timing and precision mattered. A clever thought sparked: he could manipulate them. "Watch me," he said. "Copy my movements exactly. Don't panic." He lunged to a node, pressing it hard. The nearest scout halted, suspended as if time had frozen it. The fissure pulsed. The giant creature's eyes flickered, the glow intensifying. Elias repeated the action at another node, guiding the team step by step. Tessa Lynn moved first, placing her hand on a floating node. The scout nearest her stilled. Kale followed, reluctantly, hesitating, then pressing a node. The pulse froze another creature. Their fear began to transform into coordination. The humans were turning instinct into strategy. The giant shadow's hum rose to a deafening pitch. Elias knew they were being tested harder now. He glanced at the fissure walls. Symbols, the same symbols from the holographic map, glowed brighter as they activated the nodes. It wasn't random energy. It was a puzzle. A system. The creature was a guardian of knowledge, a judge of intelligence. Keep moving, Elias urged. Follow the sequence. Think, observe, act. We survive because we adapt faster than anything here. The humans advanced, node by node, each movement precise. The scouts froze in turn, the giant shadow watching every detail. Then the creature made a sudden, unpredictable shift. It slammed a massive limb to the floor, sending shockwaves that cracked the fissure. Rocks tumbled and dust filled the air. One mercenary screamed as his foot slid dangerously close to a glowing crack. Elias reacted instantly. He lunged, grabbing the man's arm, yanking him to safety. The flare in his hand bounced, throwing red light across the scene. The scouts shrank back for a moment, almost as if respecting the human decisiveness. Elias realized then that courage and quick action mattered as much as intelligence. The team pressed forward, arriving at a chamber deep within the fissure. It was circular, walls shimmering with alien energy, nodes floating in midair like stars in a miniature galaxy. At the center lay a pedestal with a crystalline device, humming softly. It pulsed in time with the larger creature outside. Elias approached cautiously. The giant creature shifted again, emitting a low, resonant sound. Surprisingly, it was a warning, not a threat. His mind raced. The device, the nodes, the creatures, it was all a test. He reached out slowly, placing his hands on the pedestal. Energy flowed through him, painful but controlled. Images flashed in his mind, star maps, fleet positions, alien technology, and a history of vThey're 9 as a strategic stronghold. Kale whispered, awe breaking his fear. It's showing us everything. We could never have survived this alone. Elias nodded, absorbing the information. It's intelligence beyond imagination. It's not just a creature. It's a repository. And it judges humans differently because humans think beyond instinct. We improvise. We adapt. We act with empathy and courage. The room vibrated violently. The scouts swarmed the edges faster than ever. The giant shadow hovered above, eyes glowing like twin suns. But now Elias had the knowledge. He gestured to the nodes in a sequence he had deciphered from the device's pulses. Each movement, each activation froze another scout. He led the team through the pattern, timing every motion perfectly. A mini payoff arrived. The scouts stopped attacking completely, hovering in place as the energy stabilized. The fissure's walls no longer trembled. The giant shadow tilted its head, almost imperceptibly nodding, then receded toward the fissure's depths. The humans breathed as one. Sweat-streaked faces, hearts raced, but they had passed the turning point. The mercenaries looked at Elias with a mix of disbelief and respect. Kale finally spoke, voice husky. I thought we'd die. But you kept us alive. You're not just human. You're something else. Elias shook his head slightly. We're all human, he said, flare still raised. We survive because we adapt, because we face fear with thought and courage. That's what makes us strong. That's why this creature didn't attack. That's why we're still alive. But even as the chamber settled, a new vibration pulsed from deeper in the fissure. The shadow shifted again. A low, resonant hum, different from before, rose in pitch. The energy map flickered, showing a massive structure beneath the planet's surface. Something far larger than the creatures. Something that could threaten everything above. Elias felt the familiar spark of curiosity mixed with caution. He turned to the team. This isn't over. We've passed the first test. But whatever lies deeper, it's waiting. And it's watching us now. From the shadows, a faint outline of a massive figure shifted, larger and more complex than anything they had seen. The pulse of alien energy surged again. The humans had survived the first real test, but now the real challenge was coming. And somewhere in the depths, the planet itself seemed to pulse, alive and aware as if acknowledging them, and preparing for what was next. The deeper chamber throbbed with alien energy, and the humans felt it in their bones. The fissure walls shimmered like liquid metal, casting strange shadows across the floor. Elias Thorne's boots crunched over the red soil, flare held high. Every instinct screamed caution, but he couldn't hesitate now. The next move had to be decisive. The massive creature from before emerged fully from the shadows, hovering above them like a storm cloud given form. Its translucent limbs shifted and folded in ways that defied physics. The smaller scouts swarmed around it, forming a protective ring, humming with synchronized energy. Elias's team froze, weapons useless, bodies tense. Even the most battle-hardened mercenaries could feel that nothing they knew would help. Elias's mind raced. The earlier sequence had been a test. This was a trial by fire. He realized instantly that brute force would fail. Only thinking, improvisation, and courage could get them through. "Stay close," he whispered, voice calm but firm. "Watch me. We move as one." The creature's eyes glowed brighter, and the room vibrated with a deep hum that rattled teeth and bones alike. Kale Voss swallowed hard. "We can't fight that thing. We'll die." Elias didn't argue. He stepped toward the floating nodes along the walls, noticing subtle patterns he hadn't seen before. Nodes that pulsed faster, nodes that mirrored the creature's movements. If he could manipulate them, maybe they could survive. He gestured to Tessa Lynn. "Activate the sequence we learned. Quick, precise. Timing is everything." Tessa's hands flew over the nodes. Energy arcs flared, sending shockwaves across the floor. The smaller scouts froze midair again, wobbling, and the massive creature tilted its head, observing. Elias adjusted the timing, using intuition and careful calculation. Each action made a difference. Hesitation meant death. Suddenly, the creature slammed a massive limb down, cracking the floor between the humans and the exit. Dust, rocks, and sparks flew everywhere. Kale stumbled, flailing, but Elias lunged, yanking him back to safety. A smaller scout dashed toward them, lightning fast, but Elias grabbed a floating node, channeling its energy, and the scout froze in place. "Think, act, survive," Elias shouted, voice cutting through the chaos. "We're human. We adapt." The team moved as one. Every action precise, every decision deliberate. The massive creature responded instantly, shifting its attack pattern. Shockwaves slammed the walls, dislodging crystalline debris. The floor tilted, but Elias calculated each step, guiding his team through. Fear surged in his chest, but he didn't show it. Fear was a tool, a signal, not a weakness. Then came the moment of truth. The giant creature unleashed a pulse of energy so strong it knocked several mercenaries off their feet. Elias dove forward, flare blazing, using the pulse to trace a new pattern of the nodes. He realized the creature's attack wasn't mindless, it was a puzzle. Its energy reflected logic, timing, sequence. Humans could solve logic. Humans could survive logic. He barked instructions, moving from node to node, pressing, releasing, calculating. Tessa followed, Kale followed, even the most fearful mercenaries obeyed, their survival instincts now guided by Elias's calm precision. Each node responded, each pulse stabilizing a portion of the room. A mini payoff. A swarm of smaller creatures froze entirely, their energy suspended midair. The giant shadow recoiled slightly, testing again, but now the humans had gained an advantage. They weren't strong in force, they were stronger in mind, in heart, in courage. That was the human edge. Then came the most dangerous moment. A fissure opened beneath Kale's feet, energy crackling like liquid fire. He froze. Elias didn't hesitate. He grabbed Kale's arm and swung him backward, both landing hard but safe. The flare skittered across the floor, illuminating the massive creature's glowing eyes. It paused, almost an acknowledgement. Elias realized something vital. The creature wasn't an enemy. It was a guardian, a test. Their courage, intelligence, and coordination were being measured. If they panicked, they died. If they acted thoughtfully, they survived. He gestured toward the pedestal in the center, the crystalline device humming softly. "That's our key. It's linked to everything. We control it, we control the flow." Rushing together, Elias reached the pedestal and placed both hands on the crystal. Energy surged into him, sharp but controlled. Data flooded his mind. Star maps, fleet positions, alien weapon systems, and centuries of vThey're 9's history as a strategic hub. He understood then why mercenaries fled before humans survived. They couldn't solve this puzzle, couldn't see the path that humans could. The giant creature recoiled but didn't attack. Elias pressed the final sequence on the pedestal, and the smaller creatures froze completely. The fissure stopped trembling. The hum stabilized. The shadows lifted slightly as though the planet itself exhaled. The team stared in awe, sweat dripping, hearts racing. They had survived the climax, the ultimate trial. Kale muttered, voice thick with disbelief. "I don't understand. How did we?" Elias's jaw tightened. "We survive because we think, because we act, because we face fear with courage and empathy. That's why humans endure where others fail. That's why we're alive right now." But even as the room settled, a subtle vibration pulsed from deeper below. The pedestal's light flickered, casting long, twisting shadows along the walls. Elias felt it, a presence far larger than the creatures they had faced, deeper than the chamber, more intelligent and more dangerous. He glanced at the team, eyes sharp, flare steady. We've won the battle, but the war has only begun. Something else is down there. Something bigger. And it's waiting for us. The shadows shifted again, flickering across walls and ceiling, forming impossible shapes. The hum deepened, vibrating with a rhythm that hinted at intelligence far beyond their comprehension. The humans had survived the climax, but the planet itself was alive, aware, and preparing the next test. Elias took a deep breath, heart pounding but mind clear. Stay close. We move forward. Together. No hesitation. That's how humans survive. And from the depths of the fissure, a faint outline of a structure, massive and alien, began to take shape. Its sheer scale dwarfed everything they had faced. The energy pulsed with anticipation. The next challenge was coming. The humans had survived impossible odds. But the true test, the one that would define the limits of courage, intelligence, and human resilience, was waiting below. The chamber finally quieted, leaving only the faint hum of the crystalline pedestal and the steady crackle of energy from the fissure. Elias Thorne lowered his flare, eyes scanning the room. His team, breathing hard, sweat-streaked faces, leaned against walls or cradled themselves on the ground. They had survived the impossible, each one tested to their limit. Kale Voss, normally brash and confident, finally spoke. I don't get it. Why are we still alive? His voice shook, half awe, half disbelief. Elias walked to the pedestal, hands brushing the smooth crystal. Energy pulsed softly as if acknowledging his touch. Because we're human, he said, voice steady. We survive not because we are the strongest, not because we are the fastest, but because we think, because we care, and because we act when others freeze. That's why nothing we face can break us. Tessa Lynn stepped closer, still trembling. But those creatures, the planet, they were terrifying. Why didn't they kill us? Elias turned to her, eyes sharp but calm. They weren't enemies. They were guardians. Everything we faced, every test, every pulse of energy, was a measure. To see if we could adapt, think, and act together. Humans survive in ways nothing else can. That's the lesson they were teaching. The mercenaries exchanged glances. For the first time, fear gave way to respect. Their training, their weapons, their years of experience, none of it mattered against a force they didn't understand. Only their humanity, their courage and intelligence had saved them. Elias moved to the center of the chamber, placing his hands fully on the pedestal. A holographic display sprang to life, revealing maps, data streams, and alien symbols. Star systems lit up in a network that spanned the galaxy. Elias's mind raced as he absorbed the information. These weren't just isolated guardians, they were part of a planetary defense system, a network of intelligence and strategy that could rival any military force. He turned to the team. This planet isn't just alive, it's aware. It has been watching civilizations, testing them. And it has chosen to recognize us. A faint vibration pulsed beneath their feet, gentle now but insistent. The fissure walls shimmered. From deep within, an outline of a massive structure emerged. A vault, or perhaps a command center, vast and alien. It promised answers, power, and danger in equal measure. Kale's voice broke the silence. We've passed the test. But what is that thing down there? Elias's jaw tightened. Something bigger than anything we've faced so far. Something intelligent. Something capable of thinking faster than we can. And it's waiting. Watching. Learning from us just as we've learned from it. The team's tension gave way to determination. Fear was still there, yes, but now it was tempered by understanding and resolve. Humans survived impossible odds not because they were invincible, but because they refused to surrender. Elias knew that instinct, that refusal, was what had earned them recognition from the planet's guardians. He glanced at each member of his team. We came here to explore, to uncover secrets. We've learned that the galaxy is far stranger than we imagined. We survived because we worked together, because we adapted, and because we never let fear dictate our actions. That's the essence of being human. Tessa swallowed hard. So, what do we do now? Elias allowed a small smile, sharp and confident. We go forward. We don't stop. Whatever lies below, that massive structure, it's the next challenge. But now we are ready. Because humans never give up. Humans never stop learning. Humans survive where others fail. The pedestal pulsed one last time, the holographic maps converging on a single point deep beneath the planet's crust. Elias traced it with his finger, feeling the hum vibrate through his bones. That's our next destination. And it's not just a challenge. It's an opportunity to see what humans can do when nothing else can stand in our way. Kale shook his head in disbelief. You make it sound so easy. Elias laughed softly, low and genuine. It's never easy. But humans don't need easy. We need courage. We need intelligence. And we need each other. That's how we survive the impossible, and how we will continue to do so. Outside, the storm had begun to subside. Lightning still danced across vexor 9's jagged mountains, but the red clouds parted slightly, revealing pale starlight. The fisher's energy hummed a steady rhythm now, like a heartbeat. It was a warning, a promise, and a challenge all at once. Elias stepped toward the fissure opening, turning to his team one last time. Stay close. Watch each other. Trust your instincts. We've passed one test, but the planet isn't done with us. It never is. Whatever waits below, we face it as humans, brave, smart, and unbroken. The team followed him into the passage, flares casting long shadows across walls lined with alien symbols. Every step brought new questions, new dangers, but also a sense of purpose. They had survived the Guardians. They had proven that human courage and intelligence could match the universe itself. And deep within the fissure, the planet pulsed in response, almost as if acknowledging them, almost as if preparing the next challenge. A larger shadow moved in the distance, vast beyond comprehension, its hum resonating with intelligence. Elias whispered, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead, "This is only the beginning. The real test is still waiting." A faint glow from the massive structure deep below promised new mysteries, greater danger, and unimaginable knowledge. The humans had survived the first trials. But what lay ahead would test everything: courage, intelligence, and humanity itself. And as they descended, hearts steady and minds sharp, the fissure pulsed once more, sending a ripple through the planet's core. The message was clear: humans had survived, but the galaxy had only begun to recognize their power. Elias glanced back at his team. Remember this moment. Remember that we faced the impossible, and we prevailed. That's what it means to be human. And whatever waits for us, we will face it together. From the shadows, the massive alien structure loomed larger, its full purpose still unknown, but its presence promising a challenge worthy of humans. A new adventure awaited, bigger, more dangerous, and more incredible than anything they had yet encountered. The humans walked forward into the unknown, ready to prove that even against unimaginable odds, humanity would always rise.